Some mysteries hide in the shadows, others hide in plain sight. But tonight's story is about a place that hides in the one spot no one ever expects inside your own home. A room that appears without warning. A room that shouldn't exist. This is episode 4 of Mind Games. The room that wasn't there. It started with a sound. A quiet click, like a lock settling into place. Liam was in the kitchen, making coffee, just like any other Tuesday morning. He lived alone in a small apartment he knew like the back of his hand. The layout was simple. Living room, kitchen, bedroom, bathroom. 4 rooms. Always 4. He'd lived here for 3 years. So when he heard the click from the end of the short hallway, he froze. It sounded like it came from the wall next to the bathroom. The solid, empty wall. He walked over, his bare feet silent on the floorboards. He ran a hand over the smooth, painted surface. Nothing. Just a wall. He shook his head, blaming a lack of sleep. It was nothing. It had to be nothing. But the next morning, the sound was back. A distinct click. This time, he was quicker. He rushed to the hallway and stared. And that's when he saw it. A faint, almost invisible outline. A perfect rectangle on the wall, the size of a door. His heart started hammering in his chest. This was impossible. He traced the line with his finger. It felt like a tiny seam, a crack in the plaster that wasn't there yesterday. He pushed against it. The wall was solid. He knocked. It returned a dull, solid thud. He spent the rest of the day trying to ignore it, telling himself his mind was playing tricks. He even measured the apartment, comparing it to the original floor plan he'd kept in a drawer. The numbers matched perfectly. There was no space for another room. A week passed. The outline grew more defined. It was no longer a faint seam, but a clear, dark line, as if drawn with a fine-tipped pen. The clicking had stopped, replaced by a low, almost inaudible hum. It was a sound he felt more than heard, a vibration that seemed to emanate from the wall itself. Liam's life began to unravel. He barely slept. At work, he was distracted, staring into space, trying to solve an impossible puzzle. His friends noticed he was withdrawn, paranoid. He tried to explain it to his friend Sarah, but the words sounded insane even to his own ears. "There's a door appearing in my wall," he'd said, and she'd given him that look. The one that said maybe he needed to take a break, maybe see someone. He knew what she was thinking, but he also knew what he was seeing. One night, driven by a mix of fear and desperate curiosity, he went back to the wall. The outline was no longer just an outline. A small brass doorknob had emerged from the center of the phantom door. It was cold and solid to the touch. This was it. This was real. His hand trembled as he gripped the knob. He took a deep breath, braced himself, and turned. With a soft click, the lock disengaged. He pulled, and a section of the wall swung inward without a sound, opening into darkness. A cool, stale air washed over him, carrying a scent he couldn't place. It smelled old, like dust and forgotten things. He grabbed a flashlight from his kitchen drawer, his hands shaking so badly he almost dropped it. He aimed the beam into the opening. It was a room, small, square, and completely empty. The walls, floor, and ceiling were made of a strange, seamless, gray material. There were no windows, no lights, no furniture, just an empty, silent box that shouldn't exist. Over the next few days, the room became his obsession. He'd go in and just stand there, shining his flashlight into the corners, searching for any clue. He measured it, 10 feet by 10 feet. A perfect cube. He tried to find a seam in the gray walls, a power source, anything. There was nothing. It was a void carved into the heart of his home. He started spending more and more time inside, sometimes just sitting in the dark, listening to the profound silence. The outside world began to feel distant, unreal. The humming he'd heard before was louder in here, a constant, low-frequency thrum that vibrated through his bones. It was unnerving, yet strangely calming. He felt disconnected from everything, his job, his friends, his own life. The room was his only reality now. One afternoon, he was sitting in the dark when his phone buzzed in his pocket. It was Sarah. He ignored it. He didn't want to talk to her. He didn't want to talk to anyone. He just wanted to understand. As he sat there, he noticed something new. A soft glow was beginning to emanate from the wall directly opposite the door. He scrambled to his feet, his heart pounding. The gray surface was becoming translucent, like frosted glass. Shapes and colors began to swirl behind it. He watched, mesmerized, as an image resolved itself. It was a room, a living room, his living room. He was looking through the wall into his own apartment. He could see his couch, his coffee table with a half-empty mug on it, the window looking out onto the street, and he saw himself. Or another version of him. This other Liam was on the phone, pacing back and forth, looking stressed. He was talking to Sarah. Liam could hear his own voice, muffled through the wall. "I'm telling you, Sarah, I'm fine. Just stressed. I haven't been sleeping well." Liam stood frozen in the gray room, watching this other version of himself lie. He watched his other self hang up the phone, run a hand through his hair, and walk into the kitchen to make coffee. It was the exact scene from weeks ago, the morning it all began. But as he watched, he noticed something. On the hallway wall in the other reality, there was no door, no outline, just a smooth, empty wall. The other Liam seemed calm, oblivious. He wasn't haunted. He wasn't losing his mind. He was normal. A horrifying realization began to dawn on Liam. He looked down at his own hands, then back at the man in the living room. Which one was real? Was he watching a memory, a different reality? Or was he the one who wasn't real? He stumbled back, his mind reeling. The gray room suddenly felt like a cage, a prison. He lunged for the door, desperate to get out, to get back to what which life was his. He burst back into his hallway, gasping for air, and slammed the door shut. The brass knob vanished, and the outline of the door began to fade, the seam healing itself until the wall was perfectly smooth again. The humming stopped. Silence. It was over, but nothing was the same. He stood there, shaking, staring at the empty wall. Was he the Liam who had just been on the phone with Sarah, who was about to make coffee, blissfully unaware? Or was he the one who had just stepped out of an impossible room? He couldn't be sure. His memory was a fractured mess. He remembered both. He remembered living a normal life, and he remembered being tormented by the room. Which memory was real? The mystery of the room was solved. It wasn't a place. It was a partition, a dividing line between two possibilities. But in solving it, a new, more terrifying mystery was born. Which side of the wall was he on? He was trapped, not in a room, but in a question that had no answer. He was Liam. But who was Liam? He would spend the rest of his life looking at that empty wall, wondering if he was the man who lived in the apartment, or just a ghost who had escaped from the room that wasn't there. Thanks for watching this episode of Mind Games. If you've ever felt like your own reality was starting to bend, let us know in the comments below. What do you think was really going on with Liam? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next journey into the impossible. We'll see you next time.